no the Lumba de mama me no muntimi nchire mbesi ne enso saa de we nyina kogina je Dorinda anim je Dorinda so wa hu hwe o say de kofi usu be kan no na ye no kure na ye asema je say no kure ankasa etiento aso o say he continued that the plaintiff threw a threat with the actual actions with the family Anamakano. Okay. He further testified that years after the dissolution of their marriage, the plaintiff threw a Ghanaian solid. Okay, Makano. I say he continued that the deceased stated that for over 10 years that he was sick and returned to Ghana. The plaintiff took over his properties and businesses in Germany, and he has settled her and has nothing to do with her. And that message was conveyed to the plaintiff and her family during the lifetime of the deceased. Asem we na abusuapa nyini kan ye no. Opeso o kire say, Daddy Lumba e wa dansidi e kire say, o ka kire maame akosu ase wa so one na wie. O ma jai niam e wo Germany on fa no so fa Ghana de. Etisa na one na wie a abusuafo nyina ya we. Sabe pepe na kofi usu ka say, oso one na wie eti Daddy Lumba na de o ka so one maame akosu ase wa jai. Papa we na me born a voice no. Papa we na me born a voice no. Na adansidie bi o mo de ba mu no. Eno na me pese ehwe. Kofi usu adansidie a o de kan asem ne say Daddy Lumba video bi o ka say ne maame wu ya no Teresa bebrese na iye ne beto ne na so. Na wo ye niam bebre kwa to the surprise niam o ye no na efe na ANC ejomu yusu sa word no e de ka e de justify de Kofi usu kan. Na me pese me busa je Dorinda say na Daddy Lumba ebe gina stage ono aka say me yira kosu ya se wa amaware no eno de na nya na no asema yetimi fade ya adwuma me boa Daddy Lumba time a wo kan say wo jai maame akosu ya se wa na adwuma bia wo Germany ne ne ma wo Germany won fa wone na twitwa Germany awade mu no mesremo eno no omo bo evidence wo court na omo de evidence bi be kire je Dorinda my a very good disservice to the judiciary service of Ghana. And I think, say, during this appeal, no, you people should really sit down and make things work. Say the beya and then the Ghana judiciary, no. Now, man, I say rascal. Bit is a Kofi usu. Ebe ti me de mo integrity and the more dream na be dia go say the mo sebe man ko sku ansu e bibia no. Asefem if we say, oh, kind in some way, now share videos of good social media, and so then Sema Papa we can, which I know some lawyer could see presented at the court as if him. Na ye baso, no. Ye the picture, ye the kodia dance, ye say, ye wadu do bruni beba betoa. Near who Juma, Dorinda way. The appeal is about to go on, and this is an intellectual discussion we are having with the Ghana Judiciary Service that whatever that went on in that high court is wrong. Justice was slandered on the tables of technicalities in the high court under the supervision of her ladyship, Dr. Dorinda Smith-Arthur. And this is the reason why we are calling on all leaders and the judiciary and all stakeholders that we have seen a recent judgment from the Nigerian High Court. And that one goes deeper than what Dorinda could not handle. So we are seeking that the appeals court will thoroughly go through this, re-examine everything, and give Ghanaians the truth that we deserve as citizens who are law-abiding enough that no matter whatever verdict that comes out of the court of law, we abide with. And we go through the channels. So we are about to go through this verdict, and then we will appeal to the appeals court that we believe that the judiciary system has still got some good ones in there, and that the 3 judges that are supposed to sit on this appeal are going to do their thorough research and work and make sure that the darkness that has been thrown on the Ghana High Court ruling by Her Ladyship Dorinda Smith-Arthur will be reading off. Etiasramo yentoaso. Okay, he added that the deceased informed his family that there was no marriage between him and the plaintiff, and that for over 10 years, if he needed to communicate with his 3 children, he had to go through a third party. He attached proof of financial support from deceased to children through a third party and added that all the family of the deceased acknowledge D2 as the current wife and deceased. Okay, it's according to Kwaku Kristo. Daddy Lumba krano otia for 10 years. On any man be kasa just or kasa for obi so. And then bring internet or mobile phone or email or now to prove that no, Judge Dorinda na say Emma obi a okasa obi no obi communication no okofa bank transaction say obi tuye scam obi say former me bama me okofa remittance receipt say obi tuye sika Emma obi say former me bama me wa abrochire enu nti for 10 years no ne nkasa Emma Judge Her Ladyship Dr. Dorinda Smith-Arthur etimi hwade we yanim G2 and it baffles my mind. As a learned judge, go school, be a doctor, be a judge. Emma dear way baby too. I meant to say, it's a sana elbow apaya. Na ya kwa secretary se any mumu aso eko so ampa. If we say, asema confuse uken and tasumu baby ya. Ni video na wodi kan ye no nko ano se no kure ene ye se ka se ye mra ene ye yusu no Ghana court a mra wo se di confuse e ono ananu asem na ye den no timi sign ho obi a wo so wonim no ene wo begina mu bedi adanse ma no obi a wo se ontimi nkofa lawyers ene wakofa lawyers ama ba bedi abegina mo support o mu mienu. Madam Dorinda Smith-Arthur ade a wo ye no there's no way so we ye bibi fenchimo. Because I dance the way, yeah, I call law school, I go feel soon to me, my cousin, which day, am I young? It's a name, say, my china be my cotton Ghana. Now, Madame Fubi business be, now my cat has a Quadio, my mean Jessica, way, man, if I come on me, Mao, America, and as if I come on me, America, and I'll be beer. May yes, I dear no. Say, be a surprise me, baby, and I never come on no the mama down for. Now, as I may not minute in a jay, 80 years old, receipts now, between the cousin and I may jay 10 years. During that day. A day, we are doctor. You are a doctor. A day. A day. Na komuka and Nakamu de Grana Bridge say, and Grana a witness. Now, Grano say Lumba. Charlie, from the year 2000, but see this time, and quantity German, only on my cell phone. I hope Papa saw from and more must go between the amomo. Calvin, need bank account. Calvin, no need bank account. Denise need by a friend and a friend back when. Charlie, any bank account. And I get one of my friends say, Bruce Lee say, all those who know any bank account. It's a money I know BS Sakura. Calvin, no need bank account of Papa between a transfer is got to. Eti Dorinda, Adiana Maya ne mogu woni mas Sierra. Yes, Sierra. Calvin ne Charlie ne Sierra. Yeah, big shout out Sierra. Eto omo de no money bank account. Omo ni mobile phone on papa betimi afre omo. Eti wo se de no be ya dance die. Aden. Eti eto aswe. I say, Kwaku Kristo asemo kan no baby ana me pese e kan no eno ne yaka no Kwaku Kristo akire mu say omo ware we no Daddy Lumba call no after 10 years no yare ye ana oba Ghana eti e ba be hwe date ne time omu nyina ade mai no ene second defender do ko gina mu ma odobro ni no so de ne a hwe timeline no say sisi so a second defendant's case was it D2 did not testify. D2 or Dobroni, no. Did not testify, but she called a witness. James Beniaku Boateng, that about. DW1. James Beniaku Boateng, that about. I say, he is a tax administrator by profession and an in-law to D2. In his evidence in chief, he says D2 is popularly known as Odobroni, being the pet name given her by the deceased husband in show business circles. He said D2 is the younger sister of his wife, and he got to know her when he was dating her sister sometime in 2006. At that time, D2 was in senior high school student. In 2006, and I will see how Odobroni no Odobroni ewo high school, no a high school student, SS ni 2006. Okay. I say he continued that D2 later attended nursing training in Accra, and he first saw the deceased Daddy Lumba with D2 together during a funeral ceremony at D2's hometown, Kweku Eduamoa. They maintained their relationship for about 4 years before they got married. That's a 2006. And I'm going to start this year. 2006 no na preslo for you were this saying ye beba so and almost 4 years na say 2010 and omo ware 2010 and omo ware okay. Okay, he further said that at the marriage ceremony of D2 and the deceased, he represented his wife who had traveled and matters relating to the previous marriage of the deceased. And plaintiff came up during the family meeting where the deceased mentioned that his marriage with the plaintiff had broken down in Germany before he relocated to Ghana, and that there was nothing between him, the plaintiff, as a man and wife. He said the deceased further stated that since he came to Ghana, there has not been any relationship between him and the plaintiff. According to DW1, the deceased confirmed the breakdown of his marriage to the plaintiff in Germany before his relocation to Ghana during the final ceremonial questioning at the customary marriage between him and D2. He said the marriage took place in April 2010 at the deceased's former house in Tantra Hills, being part of the plan to stay out of the sight of the prowling media. He maintained that the deceased was a very private person who also shied away from the media in spite of being show-based. And during the marriage ceremony, he insisted that there should be no media coverage of the event. He continued that D2 and the deceased stayed in the deceased house at Tantra Hills before they moved to their present matrimonial home in East Legon in 2016. He added that the couple altogether had 6 children, and a birth certificate for the first child was tendered in as evidence. He stated that he is aware of the late Daddy Lumba's sickness that led to his surgery at Focus Hospital in 2013. Now, I said Daddy Lumba acquired surgery 2013, according to Owari Odobroni 2010, no, 2013, and acquired surgery. To Owari Odobroni 3 years and acquired surgery. He said the deceased and D2 had a very close relationship, and they traveled locally and internationally together and undertook many business ventures together during the lifetime of Daddy Lumba. They lived together peacefully and at their matrimonial home at East Legon, where from time to time the deceased's first 3 children paid visit and lived peacefully with Odobroni. He continued that the deceased composed many love songs for D2 and publicly paraded her as his lawful wife without any protest or objection by the plaintiff. He said he got to know Daddy Lumba's last sickness that took him to the bank hospital at Cantonments in Accra, July 2025, and he took part in a conference prayer for the divine healing before Daddy Lumba's unfortunate and unexpected death. He said after the demise of Daddy Lumba, friends, sympathizers both locally and internationally thronged into his house at East Legon to pay tribute and commiserate with the family. He stated that from the first time D2 met Daddy Lumba till his death, the plaintiff never showed up anywhere to protest their marriage of the deceased. He adds that the main vigil to mark the occasion of Daddy Lumba's passing, D2 was officially recognized and called upon to pay tribute as a surviving spouse without protestation objection from the plaintiff, who was physically present at the occasion. Okay. Eti yamra de na dada boat no so keka so yamra so. Dada boat to say 2006 and a Priscilla Ofori oshia on Daddy Lumba. Ewo mu krom. Na Daddy Lumba de ne chia ne say ne mpuna no. 84 years time. 2010 no mo ware. Na onu no de tie mo no kwa aware ni bi ne say okọ representing ne yire eye odobro ni nua ketoa. Eti okọ representing odobro ni nua ketoa no. Enu nti na mane ko aware ni bi na odobro ni nua ketoa na tupan. Eko Germany. Nti ase. Odobro ni nua panyi no no ware no okay mo fa ncheme. Ayi to amu free ko no according to no also amu ware 2010. That is 2006 no mu share e no amu ware 2010. Muntie. E to amu ware 2010 no. And Daddy Lumba yare 2013. 2013 na Daddy Lumba yare no koye surgery 2013. Okay. It's between 2013 eba be see 2025 Lumba wuye no saa hono na ese on be so mo chese ma me akusu asewa no ni ho nti wona ye be hwe yamra so o say mo koye Priscilla Ofori ho de ma Daddy Lumba wo Daddy Lumba na afie wo tantra na anti Judge Dorinda Matisi esina o ye marriage counselor. He fan na Judge Dorinda and na wo school ko a wo ko ye ne bibi a wasua wo wiase bia mu no. O ko ya o kokoto se ye ware oba ma bi ware oba no ware no ono an fie efri se o so on pese media be hu on pese camera be hu 1991 na Daddy Lumba star so a change said here 2010 on the start here and so twa pictures are your pictures. Now mo si Lumba say on person obi a be twa pictures bia o enso ene me the picture o mu twa no o be ba betoa na ahwe se sa picture na 2010 eti witness we asema o kan ye no na is 2006 2010 2013 eti 2010 na Daddy Lumba ware Priscilla no na on jai ma me akosu asewa ni nyaye because there was no protest, there was nothing, but san kofo we akọ akire a okọ to sack so eya o kan ya o se ma me ni be jai Lumba e de letter ni bibia baaye okọ letter ni muso a date ni 2018 eti Dorinda Smith-Arthur se o pese wo jitum krampo se Priscilla ware no genuine 2010 and Lumba ware no na illegal they can't tell na illegal because one was agiatum say German aware bi na o na Germany aware bi o eti 2010 and on ne ware ya one on kwano Priscilla Ofori no why at fault I'm ready no e wo ho say 2010 na Lumba na ne ware sie ya and I'm ready no. Now mu wie so ma be ka say o ware wie no ma me na be protest. Na mo say ka say o ware ni sie ye. No o ware ni sie be na be protest. O ware ni sie ye no. E be na dey court for bigamy. Eti asra appeals court say ye da so Ghana judiciary ni. There are few bad nuts in that Ghana judiciary. Nemom sasa asem we ya yakura yenko law school yet na wa wuntimi meka na dwuma na asem we ankyere enti no eno ti na ye ka say Dorinda Smith-Arthur, it's time you do the right thing. It's right time obey the right thing. Na babem bibia ade bia wa wo ye no appeals court no betimi overturn no. Let me aboa wankasa wo integrity and wo mental health. because many sure so are taking it easy after that bogus judgment. Because very bogus. Very bogus. Very bogus. Because I'm mudi yenine or 70 page idea kenka yenino. There was nowhere a Judge Dorinda Smith-Arthur doctor her leadership ultimate request in your knowledge for any marriage divorce certificate. There is nowhere a Dorinda Smith-Arthur doctor ultimate in your knowledge, in your practice of the law to graduate into a judge, in your knowledge and wisdom, ultimate said there be come and show me any divorce certificate. But you were keen on signatures on a marriage certificate which is not from your jurisdiction. You were so lazy enough that you couldn't even Google to see a sample of German marriage certificate. Dorinda Smith-Arthur, you have put our judiciary system into a shame and a jeopardy, because now people like us can never, after reading your judgment, trust in the judiciary system that we are using laws there. Now we can believe that there was a bribery allegation in this scandal. This judgment is a scandal. And that is why the ruling has never been able to sink into the well-thinking Ghanaians' minds. It doesn't make any sense to any well-thinking mind. This ruling that Judge Dorinda in her capacity as a learned person gave does not sit well with any intellectual mind except hers that seems to be corrupted. Judge Dorinda and some are can kind of as if him if we say yes, Daddy Lumba acquired surgery 2013 spine surgery. Acquired spine surgery anyway, Mona Mosia say, Mamma Kusia say, why I'm a shenida. And so I can say to you, said Judge Dorinda, your friend is a lawyer Kusi. I present him, Mamma Kusia say, what travel documents, a trail, a chest no bagana ko. Maybe I can prove to you, say, your trail video 2018. Not Charles Kojo for soon and the year, Mamma Kusia say, what for su. I want Mamma Kusia say, what Mamma Yase. I Charles Kojo for su, a yensi. The trail, but so and we can say and state categorically that there's a scandal surrounding this judgment. There's a huge scandal. Se kofi usu ye wo video wo no atu na no mutu aka na asem na se ye de mra na ye adwuma eye dan na otimi betwa ne ho obi a wo so wonim no obi a wo so wo mu no obetwa ne ho sa be ye ono na dansefo. Now me the picture now. The only idea Priscilla de kwa in a court case no. Eba to see. Now for Kwaku for 2016, Lumba in the video no. Abe share. Say Musha way 2010. Omo worry and Priscilla ni Lumba ni. Oh, boxes next year ni mu. When no me the kwaji evidence or court. Wait, idea we that way. And a Dorinda Smith-Arthur. Etimi G2 eja German marriage certificate. Adie we that way. Me say, what the command ya kwayo bo. Minyami di masemi man yo blind messiah. What the command blind messiah ko be catch us adie we that way. A fake. And so a whole high court judge, a whole learned person like her ladyship, Dr. Dorinda Smith-Arthur, it's me shenyami and adie we to say the best evidence about any 2010 Moshe Lumba, 2010 Moshe Priscilla. Moshe Priscilla no now 2010 we are talking about 15 years ago. Akwara we oni. And if Ghana judiciary timi me the adie we ba bezamo e ma mo kasi awari obia. This is the only evidence or evidence of Priscilla or any. Only evidence be BM. Only evidence be BMO. Only evidence be BM. And so I hear it our Ghana ho. Mammy Kosia say what the evidence by betre. Eye be bia. na kanya ne papa mu a Dorinda Smith-Arthur what will say oh yakoye oba nwa de a bema ni nua bema so wonya aweda what will say yakoye oba nwa de ama omo kwaji ade ya ye ni nyina awu ya ba ya awu we ya awu eti mu akasa comedies amukoyi no no yesremo de ti a yesa revisit ade we ni say yenya nkwasiafo ya krachifo ya adwene yi adwuma ye kran sa 20 pages we wie no ya hu se kwase abuo pa na mode bu maame akosu asewa na de ya ne se oba basia ene si ni nkeke se obobu oba me ne kwase asa na kamu se Ghana court no enimonyam hye no e wo ho se nkofo we mu buma ko metimi atam picture we e de abase e ya ware picture Yanchi woman content in court for trying to tender in a fake document to solidify their case. Yanchi woman she obisi rejecting na head. What the fake document babe prove it. What the fake document back court babe prove see aware. Now ya jaw ma oko see rejecting keke. Where is the content of court? Where is it? It's yesramo. And if I abuse court for you, you people are there going to make things right because same way no and try and there is no way. So bet me this certificate way. I could not any serious judge and him. Bet me this picture fun ya damachi. I will ring a crash and some fun be so no. You to try this no. I could not judge be him. No, I show any masama will witness na chocolate. It is Dorinda Smith-Arthur. We are here to punch holes into judgment, no. Now I'm a Ghana for you know say, and yes, I'll got your 70 pages, no, and I over truck or one answer story, my no, and on a justify BB. A dear way, no, you didn't want your the picture way. Embe to when him and I went to me and say a dear a modi idea when I bet you. Now Daddy Lumba say, I didn't know me and a private then no trap picture. Obia ntwa picture saade na den no twa picture chese Lumba de oka bibia engosi o Lumba timi ka se me wu an yakata manim na ya bie nanim ama ya for say kwa me despite ene his legal executive a omo Canada ebo times is no makohwe nanim menti ase o menti ase as Lumba asem no mo fa ne partial na de me be ba so ne say Kofi Usu be kan say Lumba say muntie Lumba say ne maami wu ye ono ne maami wu 2002 no sata no nya nhia presla wo ne maami wu 2002 no Teresa Bebrese na be yansie which means say obeso o chese asa 2002 kura no magyan Ewrade nyakopo Teresa Bebrese be ye no omo present this video no as evidence o ma judge gitum de support o Kofi Usu asem na mo musa mo say Lumba na numa asem a wogina state ka say me yire ama ware na kuyase asewa no eno Judge Dorinda Smith ya ma ankyere okoto Dorinda Smith she picture we pa utimi mo obi de ba wanim as a doctor madam ma feri ama wati na me sure say obusuafo komo na ewu ama very
Kwaku
eti ya kan wie na afei Bazelu say
ubehu de ntia odia me se uguso awo commission ubehu de ntia odia aware ni nyina so e wona me de kan nyina ko na o se ntia ya aware what do they make us
okay yeah yeah Matthias here okay Hannah maybe kind no or say he further said that during the 1 week observation D2 similarly was formally acknowledged as surviving spouse of Daddy Lumba without any objection from the plaintiff. He then said all time respected the plaintiff as an elderly lady if not an ex-wife of her husband. She's the mother of 3 stepchildren. She has positioned herself to foster very strong. That's what I'm can was he tendered in evidence a video of the deceased confirming that when his mother passed, it was Teresa Bebrese who performed the in-law rites. And also in evidence of the videos are deceased celebrating his wife Priscilla on Mother's Day. A video in which Daddy Lumba is talking about his wife Priscilla's mother and grandmother whose interaction with him inspired the song Yene Osrekwa. A video of the couple and their children at the airport en route to London for a show. A video in which Daddy Lumba is said talking about the history of the twins in his family that resulted to Priscilla bearing twins. All videos are with certified transcription in English. He added pictures of all the children of the deceased together during one of their visits to the matrimonial home of their deceased father and D2. Picture of Daddy Lumba with D2 exchanging pleasantries with former President Nanado and former First Lady of Ghana. Picture of the Daddy Lumba with paying courtesy call on the former Inspector General of Police, Dr. Dampare. Okay. It's evidence of money by no. I know na mabobo so no. Now it's some of the videos. Some of the videos nyina koye. Video na making. The America said Daddy Lumba ka say ne maame wi aye ne beto Teresa na so. No kobi usu kan say dey say 2001 kura na maame abusua say wa Lumba jam. It was no 2001 and over 2010 and 2018 mo say maame ne sa ba say onya no enti switch. Dorinda Smith-Arthur it took to senkofo odi watema omo dwene ho omo ntia say wako school abewie first degree abewie masters abeko law school abeye PhD abeye doctor now utimi mo omo de saade we ba betwi fa so wo court no is what is baffling people's minds. Because I know that you say you sold your soul, you sold your integrity. And this is a landmark case. And so and so your video Daddy Lumba na ejina oka se meyira maware na akosua sewa and so say video ne de chese ade ne koye se de lawyer kusi tender in bia yamfa anya adwuma but de omo na omo si Lumba so on pe public yi on pe so odi o ware be kire Lumba ware no wan twa picture amfa odobroni ankire but okọ president Kufuado wona oni ni twa picture ne de be kire ade Dorinda Smith-Arthur wan ko school ana and I'll copy and I'll pass the exams. Mentias you one go school and I say, who go school no now copy now they pass the exams by a judge. Because I don't get this. So would be my dear way, if I was sima would be passes such a would be passes such a wicked judgment for a woman for no reason. That's what you want to say. School now quiet and now won't see Diana. Now we are copy. And so now they will use uncle for the passe. Because I'm here. Say, Rabapa, Wako school. What me more this videos you have to him say, Obi the name Penabi Copper, you may be what dear Warreno. And what bra all Warreno no. Or catch it almost say on Pesa public behu. Dorinda Smith-Arthur, Ade. And I remember some cassette, Yaba. Ade, we are Tibon Coso Sana. One go school, no one treasons. Menya sure so treasons here. Menya sure, it's one, baby, I'll show teases did now appear dinner. I was at the contact school. No, now my mom you so wow judgment to say, and the case study share. Been tears so more pass so my appear, your doctor's degree. Mentias here, what bon. What bon ankasa? So what the social media videos na ya? Pay manage na wa bra na yi wo. Your friends are pressing and na no can say. Me yira kosua se wa maware no. It is also dem bra na ya adwuma na ka wo yusu no aka no no. God, what bon ankasa? Wo judge wo Ghana nyina no abom. Dorinda Smith, what bon anka because ade awaye no. I say enya corruption na waye ye bon e2 what bon. What bon be adwene won ti ase minim school akoye but you so free problem what we copy say na the be judge ne kura copy because ade awoye ye any judgment ama e ba ye kan a na eti kura ye na enipo ye doctor pa na bon say what bon ye say wo koye judge e ka koye medical doctor ka be kuni pa because what bon wuti awu Dorinda wuti awu say wu what bon e ti team league for mo fan channel what bon Dorinda Smith-Arthur so evidence when in some way no mo be catch re wa bon na me kura me nya judge me go school o be catch re me say enipa na o ware oba no o se won pese obi a be huntu o man twa picture o wi anu asa the picture abre me say enipa na ne oba ne ko panyimu bi onti menje picture na hwe so o ma ware wa boda man na o sa enipa na ade ne bre me wa gire ye adwuma no ware no kura na hia no wone na ntwa picture no anu ne ko obi ono kotwa ne picture e na ode Ibrahim se menye ndai eti se me na meti akonwa ni ma e ka babu sa abusu pesa na wo fa me sei wa dwene nya adwuma se wo be ka kire me so obi ware wa ntwa picture edu ni adanse die bia apart from we na wo kwa kwa picture se one obi Kwaku Fuado wonti na yire no etiene obi ono oba bia na ma obekọ Akufuado na say IGP ona yire no are you people serious Dorinda Smith-Arthur ye medidi wa temo ba ye be mo bia wo say wa adwen na say ewu and enya tenie because wa adwen nwi pa na ye doctor wa ye wu PhD thesis e passe ya nya so say obe ma confuse mo de asem we aba ama ye nyina wo so wa bon say wa bon clearly wa bon hwe Nigeria for ruling na aba hwe Nigeria for kwa so mo pe corruption ne wan hwe ruling na aba eno kwa de oba na mse ye ware ni mpo ye niema bebre kwa ni mu chenwe oba na meka so ya atitibini enye ntoro no mo kodwitwae na no wo de nde wa bon menye so ko school one outro exam child was ade we pa wutimi mo di begina wani ma nim se ebetimi abaye public ade ada ho ama wo manyina abanyina be kan na wutimi tena ase mo de sa ankwara ase we be ti de menti ase eye bon no abon and a scandal na mo ka se there was a bribery surrounding it ampa because menti de wo ye na se wa bon wutimi so Dorinda ko school e copy nko na ade be judge copy na ade be judge no kwa na me ka kiro anta wo judge ne kwa ye na political appointment count me no what me ma ofu sumo om ko school ne sa kwase ampanyin a dada bo jimi we do adwin we be beat you say ye kwa ware no oso on be say obi a be huntu antwa picture afi say nipa na awie ya no asa akọfa picture say ahwe say one na ware e kire say one ne ko papa bi ono mu twa picture no ware oba no wantwa picture na wode ne ko tia obi no otwa picture ma de aba kire me aden Ghana panifo ni Supreme Court ne wa aden Judicial aden It's your Chief Justice. Ya wuta oba Canada. Oba Canada. Ifo no. Omo na Lumba ka se memo obi anyi omanim. Omo nkwa kwhwe ne omo so ho. Edu ofa ya sremo. Appeal we de nyina ni tuatuam fefe se World Cup no. World Cup. De sremo. Ya de sremo nye afi na ehia bi ya be koso Canada ho. Na afi appeal na be ya ne ho se be dane abedwen ne sibia. Yes sir, you don't say Berlin conference and I course Canada. And at the end, the basi. It's Chief Justice Wadaroma when in our in Canada, Bomodia, Nakwajiwani, ya were your microphones, ya were your cameras, ya were your underground security. Now the time I call Canada, or be lay down, ambush or yes, Ramo, Ghana penny for Moko Treasure Canada. Who may need the emblem. Maybe I no crana make catch them or no, because he a picky information be our. Enye papa wa wo kasa meeting no bia enye papa da India so Chief Justice yan kasa men ko Canada time na wo de ko no ye hu mema bia omo de obi timi ye na we okura ne abo atra mo makohwe ni fu omo wo ho iti Wadaroma oko na afi abiu ya ekoya obi ehun se de di kan si hwe picture damachi Chief Justice yetimi de pass judgment o Ghana fere eti esabe yes dane BMDA ene na yebese abu asi dadam keke fire for fire na eti se de America no Canada one de obi anka aseme mo obi anko na emom ye de se de ye megina so ka no Daddy Lumba ka aseme mo obi anhwe nanim na mo obi anhwe nanim enso ye wo omo timi tigina ko hwe Lumba funu aye wo video me wo for se kwa me despite count Oni Islego executive fo nyina ose akofo mu nyina omo ka ho ade aya ma brimpoma nhwe ye ka chia brimpoma so kofa 20 billion ra no ye ma asa kuku damfo we ehwe eti so omo twa hia o Canada ho ne ate omo nka so omo de omo pese esi Ghana bi omo timi ye dia ne ka se Chief Justice bibi ana ne de ane na ne tete fire na ne be sa ko ti esrem appeals court ye jimudi o ma no kuresi Oza mama no kwesi o mani mo. Oza no kure ni si. Na no kure ni daddy. If we say Nigeria for Yankopon amamoni maguase. There was a judgment. And I see one Nigeria no. Mani maguase Dorinda Smith-Arthur. Yako for Nigeria for ruling near the beto de no wa. Wa bon we ti bon koso. Wa bon. Judge wa Ghana nyina no wa bon. Wa bon flat. Wabon. Your share judgment at the buyer, wabon flat. Wabon ankasa. Adiana de nam say nyame adumbi. And I didn't know now so we are smart. It when anybody else one way we are not true. And we na dey pass exams. From could believe sir. Say what na say patriotism. I used to wow brains they solve problem them and sure. Because we yes na this cannot be a judgment coming from the pedigree of you. Et me masa. Me say me na make catch you said Dorinda Smith-Arthur partner se be kasa asema make yampa. Copy wabon. Unim she. One kasa one for wadran exam san solve da. One year case study be pass law school ni be ada. You were always copying. That be a we are na de koye. Be a we are. O talent no as when the boss one we are. Ah na me ni pebo na friend photocopy. Ono sa. Big shout out to you photo C. Bantima jungle pele. Ah photocopy. Ono mo koye exams not be for you go be try on a boy na can scan na try. She obe chiro sisi e tie friend photocopy. Ne talent ni bi na Dorinda Smith de be judge. Because ade we ba wutimi nya abotre chiro de be to abonten se en kan ne de. Wa fa Ghana fo so obi agimi. Wa fa ne se ye nyina eti bonko so fo ya bon se o. Na nka wo no judge mu a obi abegina wanim so obi kwa ware so ntwa picture. Enka picture mpie. O se public no be se picture be ba. Ye enfa picture bia me evidence biem. No worry, when trap picture. No call president to go trap picture and I debate them evidence. Oh my! Now you ti bon koso now one or two teases. I deal with me my obi and family too. Wow bon! I know the need what them. Wow bon! Oh my! I better know his judgment to it. Wow bon! Dorinda Smith-Arthur. Wow bon! Copy na the name. Copy Dorinda Smith-Arthur. Copy judge. Copy judge. Copy no the name wa be judge. Mosha picture damechi ya dia biti judge Dorinda wo ye copy. Yeah copy. Wa bon say judge ti bon koso wa bon. Who wa bon. That time you say go school yeah what A line B line C line D line is a D you one bomb. What is that? Oh you are that Smith you are not D line one bomb. Ghana judge you know one bomb boy Smith one bomb. Timi na doctor no nya no we. Timi bomb say bomb. One bomb. Learners ade amakan we. One bomb me ka bibia. One bomb. Wow, boom, unimanie. And for 2 1 that certification be out exams. Who na pass? Wow, boom. Menya so teases square na try. Wow, boom. Ah, what of you somebody adwuma we be do? Am school awakọ bebrebe nyina de wani mu twitwi form. Hwe picture da eti o ma mu nto o de ba. Hwe picture da eti o ma mbu. Ah, Dorinda Smith-Arthur. Judge na ye judge wa bon. Judge wa bon. Wa bon unia. Wa bon. Judge ni no wabon jai Dorinda Smith wabon we obi ani di watemo wabon utizi zenya na atro me na mka kire unyusu wa adwene mfa solve problem bi ada me na mka kire wabon enya bribe no nko scandal no what's up bon comment ase se obetimi am mo de ade we abeka na ka de mo munye ni ye ya mfa picture ama se ya mfa picture ama where the picture we hu emfa ho aware picture no we hu emfa ho witnesses omukọ aware ni nyina obi enu ano ye present and found oba na ye ware no ono ani nua ba akura nkobi ni kunu na kobi ono ne ba be gina ho no asem a wo ka no kura bi ani memfa ho adan Musa Yusu say my many the letter by 2018 and no qualify for desertion and qualify for any desertion no e nipa mienu no e na betimi aga say who desert me and as what desert me it would Dorinda Smith-Arthur. How did you come to justify that in the absence of Daddy Lumba no? How did you come to justify say Daddy Lumba confirm me say my many deserting cannot correct what's our bone I'm catch what bone unim she by some luck me na do koye judge and I was a commenting by we as wabon do ye there obe wia wo exams ni nyina no failing in real life onto wa failing wani ma guase failing obon obi an so wabon I mean kan so no obi an so wabon ah Roma father aka one last 1 hour we me know was yampanyini that's the be chemo Okay, me kind of ruling ne baby a echichi ma adweka ko say the primary or say proving a valid marriage. Muntie o. Aware na ye prove no. Muntie ni ehwe say ye maame agosu ase wan kwa na wo say koma na na say wo say koma nipa me. Say the primary and direct proof of a valid ordinance marriage is the performance of the marriage, but a combination of other documents corroborate or the collaborating as then on the performance of the marriage is more convincing than a single document. The situations where the marriage certificate may not be enough to prove marriage, for instance, non-consummation of the marriage nullifies the union, or mental incapacity of a spouse, or a marriage was not legally solemnized in cases of fraud, or there are issues with marriage certificate itself. Again, where the marriage is void, ab initio, then the certificate may not be considered as sufficient proof of a valid union. In a situation where one of the spouses was already married to a third party under the types of marriage before marrying under the ordinance, or that the marriage was fraudulently contracted, the ordinance marriage certificate may not be considered as a proof. Etidi ebema etimi akebetimi disqualify ye maami akusu asewa a certificate na makeka no. Okay. Was it similarly a person who has converted his customary marriage to an ordinance marriage can not legally marry another wife under any of the three types of marriages in Ghana. Thus, beside consummation, a marriage can be annulled if one or both parties were minors when the marriage occurred. One of the parties were married to someone else. One of the spouse was forced into the marriage. There was evidence of fraud or deceit. Okay, embassy on this. Said Daddy Lumba say, Oba be ware Priscilla na so the atita. Then there is an evidence of fraud and deceit. And nothing or worry no. One in a chapter on an anya or a fraudulent marriage. And on my was a few. Eti how come say Dorinda Smith-Arthur and me who said you? Looking at the circumstances surrounding our area, one in a chapter during our area was say, mobile MMO and chapter, or in here media beer. Then Dorinda Smith-Arthur, in your mind, couldn't it occur to you say that could be a fraudulent marriage? Looking at the face of evidence, Madam, I then wabon sir. Wabon. Dorinda Smith, me say wabon. I'm telling you for free. We will be a we a tibon koso. Who goes to one pass exams genuine leader. And until real life exams, those who are failing. What failing say poto. Poto. What Guanima say? Shapechapa it me bejina wenim. That's all. They don't respect you to present this before you say evidence. No, they don't respect you. No, be about court. I can't say nipa na ware no. Oseme mi ntwa picture. Osa ware oba no wo no ni fie. Isn't that a fraudulent marriage? Isn't that a fraudulent marriage? So why do you then accept that marriage? Based on the fact say yes say ubetima ye obi empana ware. Enti asema ye can say appeals court we. Yeah, we still believe say there are still some good judges out there. Now asema ebano we appeals court ye nyama ebiasi wo Nigeria. Very just say the same pedigree. Now we call the side check no kwa no akona nim chen atitibini. Any atitibini no de call you. Okona nim mo. Rabba or no yen niema bebre kura no. Emra na kire no kura na ewom no. We are appealing to the appeals court say ade na ekosom. Ade na ekosom ana ekoso high court no. Entwa ye Dorinda Smith-Arthur, Ghana for the Bechani free say, ya fan is a wabon, of course, who and residents be ambassador. When to me, I fan argument through thesis, a chat GTP judge. Dorinda Smith-Arthur, at this point, you must say a chat GTP judge. Only shame, wabon, jitum, say wabon, na the right thing. The jai appeals court. No more MP power nim was in free. When the moment appeals court be overturn no ruling, no, when you are soon. They cannot use that as a precedence. It is a menewa, a SDA, the Kwampire, Kwaku Kristo, Kurakawa, between no bompire, say rather Mr. Fachabio, Nanim Guasia, Bameson soon. Fachame, Nadia Mekoye, Nume home, Madame. ana da wono hwe picture we awuraba wako school achocho thesis akese pass exams wotena ho masa akwara asikọ no ma we di ade we be bitu ama wo kasa ampa ya ware no ti wa ya ofe Smith-Arthur eti wa ya ofe ogu wani mu asise maybe kan SDA for SDA Saturday bia mo ye wedding di wo bi ye wedding say na ne da chente you bet me the picture we about the obi wedding awade our brothers nothing like a divorce certificate menti say sa nkwasiafo no mo website on titi no kwa abota jimi fo na and now there's no appeal and na jimi ne kwasiaba ne mfia ne papa ewu aka fridge mu no anko hwe na onwene ne ho na maame abosu asewa bi a ono ne be ma abobra ono ne dachi esiki ona ado ho toto and there's no appeal there's nothing no jimi kwasiaba eti esra Dorinda Smith-Arthur enim guase a wagu ho no eye ti no sisi ana ozo ankasa no okwa nkoto bi anim a usu na usire nyankopon na apa na chew na afre ma me agusu asewa wade we o mamma nyina ba be face bi Dorinda Smith-Arthur wo de ese wo de no wo de na ebe bo untimi okwa ese utibu akora agu anim ase ba bia ukobia obi a na wo sire ko obi a nso yin pa bonefo okwa na me ka kire baby a obi a woni na mpia unu akora ni zo yipa bonefo ade a wo ye no obetimi de aye obi a ade a wo ye no obetimi de aye obi a eti asem wedding picture we na omode kokko tender in as evidence e o Kumasi High Court. Dorinda Smith-Arthur saw nothing wrong with this. But she saw everything wrong with your mama abusu asewa marriage certificate. Enti enko yanim. I say enko yanim I say Ernestina what okay on my some examples of the original so the ruling na meba. Enko the final ruling you know the buy. Okay, I say, you agree with me that your brother and plaintiff signed the marriage certificate. Once they were married, they will sign a certificate. I know you want to say, the answers provided by PW1, I know Imame Brimpoma, that a marriage certificate must have signatures of the couples is not the more reason an expert witness should have been brought by the plaintiff to speak to the prominent features of a valid marriage certificate from Germany. Then, a look at Exhibit O series is supposed to be Daddy Lumba and plaintiff signing a document. If the evidence is true, then a marriage certificate bearing the signatures of the parties should have been submitted or tendered in evidence. In alternative, the absence of such signatures on marriage certificate from Germany should have been confirmed by experts witness. Ghana marriage certificate has the signatures of the couples and the signatures of their witnesses. If the court is presuming German law to be Ghana law, how can a court of law presume? During that Smith-Arthur, then what bomb? Me say what bomb? I was a Ghana judge for the pamon and all my treasures and for going to shade. I didn't make can hear with just I don't know where you're going to bufu. During that Smith-Arthur, are they? Huh? Say, I was a German certificate, no. I was Ubusa Bripoma say, now so almost sign, no say I, which I am almost signed certificate, but I don't say almost signed certificate. I was say also, it's no, you did a very lazy job. Very lazy judge. What bounty no? When you why this you shemu kurabe because what bon? School now call no. A copy na the photocopy. What bon? Ya Dorinda Smith-Arthur. And I was say lazy. Say, I can just Google a German marriage certificate. Now you turned your onus and now your responsibility no on Mamia Kusia Brimpoma say, I wasn't going to mom the Timmy features of what German marriage. Aden. There's all kind of judgment now to say, Madam, now what bones are? I want to be a far or you need Kakaka, we have to Ghana for you now. So, we'll be at that one now. Aden. It's yes, abuse court for same way there. Just say I am called law school layman in the law. No, just say ask him. Any And the man he said the fact say Ghana I told you about it's Ghana passport no and the fact say Ghana passport you green why no and say we are seeing wow as a judge what school do assume say and as a presume say passport be we are seeing to say Ghana there. How can you tell me this? How can you tell me say Asante and I say Ghana for if one of your favorite dishes is fufu? It who assume say alata for wine for be favorite dish ebe fufu. Menti asio American Kaibe no. Enya born at Dorinda Smith, me so wa born. American Kaibe no. Se me metia no, menim say Ghana for ankasa pe fufu. Enti me hia obi a me ma dwene mu enam se ma bodam. Enti no, me ma dwene me hia obi a na ma dwene am say ene also fufu na ape. Are you serious? Enti esremo, appeals court for Madaroma. Enim said we still have good judges. Omunima there. Our the original omukosu kosu ade ne twae. Our the one that chiro thesis and your copy and your chat GTP judges. Yes, Ramo, Mummy and I him now same way they ask him. It all just say, we intellectual now kind of deal here. Now, as I also say, I didn't know. I as a Ghana or no, I'm we are as I say. I'm with me shower the enemy go our the enemy masses. Ade a otro nyansa bi animo ade a Dorinda Smith-Arthur what is Ghana for because it's Ghana for there omo hu akenkan a obi aye mehye no o ene de otro bebrebe ade e ka be kan nyina o say 106 105 o say the court finds a fact that the plaintiff could not prove a marriage which she alleged was contracted under German law, since proving a foreign law is a matter of fact. She also could not satisfy the presumption that she contracted that marriage by providing an authentic, identified, certified copy of the marriage certificate. He said he wanted a certified copy. They provided a certified copy and he yet said he wanted an authenticated copy. They say, hey, brofo na DBT Ghana for. Also per certified copy, or more certified copy. After wow judgment, most have a catcher say now per authenticated copy, which is which. There's a brofo, and I'm so bounty, you need to be able. Neboa. Yeah, Dorinda, the more any day at time. Mundi any idea grow. Now you see an idea appeals court say. We know said there are still brilliant and intelligent judges. I know there are no doubt about that. Dorinda they were born if it's a school no money na amako obi abon ti judge fo nyina ko na eri lawyer fo nyina ba ono ye fast obewi apase wanu ankasa afa na adwena ntro thesis bi ada was ankora judgment we am kan yi me kura me nko law school nko ye wan o de sa asem we sima ni ma me di no 1 minute be enti asemo se mu hu se judgment ne ba ye no echi no ye mu bi ne ebo funa da bia ye dida e we what did he attempt. The church mama meaning what the call dreamer. It doesn't make no sense. I'm very sorry. Dorinda Smith-Arthur. I'm very, very sorry, say. It does not make any sense to me at all. With judgment now make it does not make any sense. What bong kobo what bong last konko me am catch it. What bong what the copy chat GTP now the school. What bong what bon e ka judge ka dey for phone wo dey what bon kra from ma oba say ko check German na yima me and after German embassy for Emma judge a lawyer ne catch you so person wo sapina judge German one here wo say it was not necessary. It is say no you find say scandal you find say we intellectual capacity no form. And yes, Ukoji can a bribe, no dear we no dear another day story. But see another ye kind of a chese wuja Dorinda, your intellectual capacity that should make you or qualify you as a judge in the high court, no, and will form it also a demotive. You don't qualify intellectually, your brains cannot comprehend what is going on over there. I'm telling you this for free. Dorinda, I may say the capacity of your brain can never comprehend what is going on as a judge or high court. Ultimi yes ade no because ade we ya wo ye pa no asa de no wabrunsa asa wabrunsa na wo judgment we it does not make no sense at all. who kasate said the tibodri sang who internet kura ni wiase. Now first na internet ni wiase na court no mo kono mo ye de no mo verify documents. Are you serious? Na nemrema ubo German marriage certificate ebe yaba. German marriage certificate, do they have to sign on it? Ebe yaba. Wa bon wo de na nyebo apai wa bon wo ye ti bon ko so judge. Wa bon unim shi wi ase.
Kubanum sia. German certificate ni bi da ni ma mesma go sa. Inti se mentimi kan cho na sa.
All right, can cancel.
Starting with spouse 1. Name of the spouse 1, and a name of the spouse 2, and a date of marriage, place of marriage, and a marriage name issued by. There is no signature. And I'm a course who say, does German marriage, have a signature of the spouse? According to NRC, the certificate issued by Civil Registry Office in German is an official extract from the marriage registry. It usually includes name of both spouses, date and places of birth, date and place of marriage, marriage registration details, official stamp, signature. The marriage certificate does not contain signatures of the spouse. Medasi.
Okay, Miss Medasi pa. ATM say, Dorinda Smith-Arthur, and I'm so bounty. Google ground to me check it. Want me and check where the actual judgment to akuma nchirima. Many a mama fair amount. Me kind say we I can say you don't have the intellectual capacity to sit in a chair. So a high court judge. I'm very sorry. You don't have that capacity. You don't have that intellectual and intelligent capacity. No, you lack that. What bone? And you want to pass the exams. What bone? You've never passed any thesis. It me we are look into your background on education. Now me this our judgment I send the school now through thesis benya PhD Say, I doubt it. Say, no, genuinely want to throw thesis say they should look into your PhD again. Mentia say the judge of your caliber. Now what me ma omode sadie we bana de be go Ghana awari anima sisa. Say German certificate Ghana they all presume say obi a o Ghana bia pefufuo who presume say Ghana ni nkabro for majority country e do share Chinese ni awon so be country. Are you serious? Who go school and our adwene say the fact say Ghana for one country or be country of do share Chinese ni who presume say. Are you serious? So you sacrifice justice on the table of presumption. Daddy Lumba Smith-Arthur, because your brilliance and intelligence does not match up to the pedigree of a Kumasi High Court judge, you sacrificed your justice for your presumption to feed your ego. Wow, boom. Last one. Wait, watch na abaso. Na ya home discussion. Na fi memra Roman father so ne empom. It was so first lady Smith-Arthur there na. Mbeti na fa amanfo na wan be kamina because Roman father there dey also me rehearse ba na me say be soja no gu no so pa eti ewie Smith-Arthur there obi beti mbeti na fa obi no ba bi why o say me ba o ma evidence you are okay, mom tell you a catchy marginal. Or say the elder sister of the deceased under cross-examination, though she denied the fact that D2, although Bruni was married to the deceased, she admitted that D2 is her in-law as she is caught on tape as a JB2 series referring to her as sweet sister-in-law and loving in-law among others. Dorinda Smith-Arthur, on what basis, on what intellectual basis did you assume and not presume? Just say, it shows to say you are a very intellectual, bankrupt person. I'm very sorry. I'm very, very sorry. If we say obi ko wari ani nua ba na di adanse na the fact say obi awo Now obeka say we are still no and that's all ye kuma na kire say wo ware ne na say otimi e de eno no ye evidence ware nipa dia ene mani ewu ama wan ko school koye de na say we de edwomfo kwa sebe edwomfo na omoton ne ma na omo school no omo kra ti asem we a they can judge it better than who our school. That's me that what bon na me say I will compare where you are bedi me ho me pe school na okoye no I'll call your PhD, no. Then I will send this to them and email them. Say, I'm worried about your thesis. Why would the natural be that? Why would the pass exams that? Why? How can you give all these bogus UA1 documents? What they babe support to? The gibberish judgment that you gave. I'm very sorry. Your judgment is very gibberish. It's very, very gibberish intellectually. And lacking any intellectual capacity. It's very, very gibberish. Very, very gibberish. So now we used to say we are nyansa be no. We used to say we are nyansa be no. Okay, also that divorce, the combined understanding of reading the law of family relations in Ghana, in which land okay, obi book not the buy. Also 6, dissolution of account customary marriage cannot be done without meeting of both families. There should be a complaint made by the aggrieved spouse. The parties are heard in accordance with the rules of natural justice. Okay, I had it here. Muntio. Double standards are your friend say Dorinda Smith-Arthur. What fun is a Ghana for you regiment to settle on the judgment Munti Bako. I just want to pick point remember me I more. My best I'm picky never no be or see divorce. Now your basis I did even in the traditional setting no. I also ban bufua ye now. But let's come here say or the traditional marriage but two one and the formula never two you suya one set is our standard no. When it comes to odobroni. About odobroni dia or go BBM eba ma amia kosuya se wa dia or kofa bibi de be prove na asem. Dorinda Smith-Arthur wa bon tibon koso judge number 1 ene so it's divorce ni there what the buyer because say after the hearing a serious attempt is made to reconcile the parties. It's only where reconciliation fails that the woman is expected to return her drink. It is only ama wearing no during that Smith-Arthur unya approve na because nipa na o ware ni nua ba gina wo say ye ni nua ba ni nua no wan ware obi anka we ho na oba we ye nyan no eti emra be na wugina so na wujusu customary ayiwa ha no me say ye customary marriage no he fa na ma be ma kwan se kofo obi baba be she ofie se wo ware no na ye ntwa picture ye nya hwe such a fraudulent act said Daddy Lumba ya mpakwa a fraudulent marriage Dorinda Smith-Arthur and I'm so lucky the intellectual capacity to decipher between a fraudulent act and what is right in Tino, who accept here no, Ekatre Mamia Kusuya say was say the marriage certificate no, who signatures was so every say who presume me say it is a German marriage, it is a Ghana marriage certificate. Now it's a Dorinda Smith-Arthur, so be a suya dear free the old canimudia. As a meme no, when say Ghana need the on camera for country, it be share American here automatically mean presume a day. Yako kan we am see didi matem hwe picture we 2010 me the 2016 picture odobroni any Lumba twa airport ba ba to ani are ada na mon kan okoresa enti asramo appeals court of Ghana Dorinda Smith-Arthur there wama ye wura wama ye nsemabu yentimi nje court no kora ni ye every say ade a wo ye me de me hu so lack the intellectual capacity aside bribery scandal na course no or lack the intellectual capacity to be a judge in the high court. She doesn't have that intellectual capacity, say, or quite a high court judge. I'm sorry. I think, say, the promotion was highly politically motivated. And what fairly poto at this practical exams. What fairly poto because case study way and then the judgment way no, it does not make any sense. It does not make any intellectual sense at all. Anybody can worry. Also one chapter of a secret marriage. On person why Jina Nkoso said the person could have performed a fraudulent marriage. Oji Tum say okay. But nipa na ntwa picture wona warriors no. Nipa na omo bedi adanse na asa akofa picture enye na warriors say one panyin ni okọ panyin wo de otwa picture. Okọ we wo de otwa picture. Enti wo de badge tum ada Dorinda Smith-Arthur. That's the nkran. And I got see Jimmy. And I'm going to school. Madam. See, I'm going to school near Tibroni Casa. Broni Bani and who's a color to way. And then be the Kurana, even home. And you classic for Ghana. What's it? 8 years Ramon. Abuse court. I deal with a ferry. Who can't really know. Now the intellectual, you too much to say, and to judge near our school pana, I am crass MC. Judge near our school pana, or Timmy Mo be Jimmy Semse, within or court. Obitimi nya film e de sa bossere mu ka be gina na nim court e be ye theatrics channel judge wo say wo value integrity a judge wo say you value integrity and I would say writing 70-page gibberish way to support your nonsense judgment. Are you serious? Don't ask me tata me say woni awu ama wo ho na wo ma no na mu nyina be nyina be kan e woni wo our bon set bon course into the go. Our Daddy Lumba same way. Me come a last point. Now if me jam obi abetche na adwene bi. Na yakọ ayiso. Why?
Okay, go.
Me pe me last point na me pese me build me you on. Maybe me share me last say it so first they do bet me for man for normal be kan we ni bi ansa na ma ba Roman father so na ya why
okay
First lady
all right maybe my kind of last you know or say I've considered the entire evidence adduced by the plaintiff and the defendants, the exhibits and the written addresses filed by learned counsel for the plaintiff and the defendants. And in the premises, I refuse the plaintiff's reliefs A, B, and C and D. I also refuse the relief of the second defendant and rather grant reliefs II and III. In this result, the plaintiff was customarily married to the deceased Charles Kojofosu aka Daddy Lumba in 1991. The second defendant was customarily married to the deceased Charles Kojofosu aka Daddy Lumba in 2010 in Ghana. I declare that the plaintiff and the second defendant are surviving spouses of the deceased Charles Kojofosu aka Daddy Lumba. Consequential orders. The Ekwana family of Pakoso and Insuta Ashanti, represented by the head family Kofi Usu, #1 defendant, is hereby ordered to organize a plaintiff Akosia Sewafosu and second Priscilla to perform widowhood rites and the funeral of the late Charles Kojofosu Daddy Lumba forthwith. There is no impediment in the way the third defendant in allowing the Ekwana family Pakoso represented by to Mr. Wine Omutino my 80 Dorinda Smith-Arthur where you na makaino what timia shadie we so with no picture evidence nothing customary laws ayele no Ghana no so who go by the customary laws ayele Ghana me ba be ready how a marriage is supposed to be performed customarily e Ghana near the shower judgment o bonde uti bon koso for judgment no na fe amanfo akasabi ne akọ Roman father so okay yeah baba share since Judge Dr. Leadership Dorinda Smith-Arthur who title be was abonsi since we used to customary in a demand we are about to read into the customary laws of Ghana and the procedures because all you should divorce no or you should these procedures 18 amicasa or set double standards Mentiasie say odobroni wa marriage ne de wan fa saa de we anfa matoto so omo ye ni nyina pepepe ntimeji tum na ono say ono na agi atum by force madam yenye nkurase form awo wa bon go school and pass as ba ko da Dorinda Smith-Arthur me say wa bon we ti bon ko so judge it is since say ube use sad and ye ba be ready na Ghana fo nyina ye nim na ye say kind de mra ne kan kasa na ya share so mo de sa niam we nyina breast obon for Smith-Arthur. I say a customary marriage is an unwritten traditional union rooted in the local cultural ethnic practices while specific rituals vary globally. Okay, maybe in Ghana my friend also. Man for her. First, let's move for man for I'm carrying now. Okay, I'll say a customary marriage in Ghana is a vibrant, family-centric union. The word is family-centric, which means it's always centered around family. There has to be the presence of family. It's family-centric according to the law. Judge, during the use the customary laws, the first one is family-centric. So there's no way without a family. Or say it involves the knocking ceremony to announce intentions, the presentation of a mandatory bride price list, and the formal exchange of vows and drinks in front of both families. Dorinda Smith-Arthur, say evidence when how be? Was there any evidence as to say they performed the traditional marriage rites in front of all the both families? And Mamia Kosia Bripomo, a direct sister to Daddy Lumba say, Onimoshe, and Bodao, and trigger your intellect because we are born when you're intelligent. We are one of the most unintelligent judges Ghana has ever produced. And I'm very sorry to tell you, say, one kasa one pass exam that wabon. Now let's go on and read. But see, the union is sealed when the bride publicly accepts gifts and rings. There was no rings, there was no gifts. There was no provision of rings. There was no photo say Daddy Lumba share a ring. And look at the finger and so. And this is the only evidence. I better Dorinda Smith. A tip on Koso judge. I was born in him. Omo share ring go. Marriage ye share ring. Ana me boa. It's ring or share anyway. Ring or share no. E wa hefa. And yo, ring in here. When I'm going to chair Dorinda Smith-Arthur 2010, Lumba no pregani. Ring the share any ring nation and sa right. Ring no, I said and sa right. Any panamine and it's an acquiring pet. You can't do so. Also the announcement, the prospective groom, accompanied by his senior family members, goes to the bride's family home to officially announce his intention to marry or say any pana oko ware no one na busuafo ko oba ni fie Dorinda Smith-Arthur divorce no de okofa abeto okofa chat we beto na den na ware na wo qualify odobroni ne de o man ye wo discretion na wan kofa we ameto alpha evidence by evidence. All the series of evidence no one farm ameto no one farm achiwe. Say, was say, a comobedia dance, say, yampa, near where you fear wall a pass. Daddy Lumba and a bush your penny could to sack. And in your mamma by a fear say, Omo pepper sella warino, and stati and fluo. Yamiba Tiamo court where say theatrics in Naka. What Tiamo Capapa? Okay, I say, the ceremony and acceptance, family representation, Muntie. The ceremony is usually held at the bride's family home. The ceremony is held at the bride's family home. Nina a prerequisite. Say ka prerequisite a dia ejina so mietimi gitum say e ampa why a customary marriage no e ka ho it is Dorinda Smith-Arthur ada na way steps where the we to twene here na divorce there the okofa ba de gina so e de je maame akosu asewa de atum na we de wanu so ka se jimijimi ho eno na ya na am yebu ofu no na ye di matem no every sade we ya wo ye no what did the Ghana fo nyina atem because what bon na ye ti bon koso uko school one pass exams bi ada Dorinda Smith-Arthur wabon 18 appeal court judges yesterday Dorinda Smith-Arthur bon no wabon me nyeme ko amanya judges so na me kan no. Number 2 public consent muntie na the country say Daddy Lumba say opeso wari secret. Are you people fucking serious? Prerequisite back when they say public consent. Eti dey lawyers amoko say dey we munima ene ka. Enti say ansa na customary marriage no ye beji atum court and I said the Dorinda Smith-Arthur ye no say nya born no wa bon and nya bribe no kwaji ye and aware no person